This week on MS Refresh, a cool pair of updates in Excel, some nice polish coming to OneDrive, Outlook, and SharePoint, and finally some dates on some major Teams features and, unfortunately, another one delayed. Stick around for the details, subscribe to stay in the know. This is the MS Refresh Show. Welcome to the Matt and Sean 365 Refresh Show. This is episode 9, the week of February 1st, 2021. Holy crap, it's February already. I'm Matt Wade, coming to you from the East Coast of the U.S.
And I'm Sean Bugler, coming from the West Coast. And it is a beautiful, beautiful winter day over here in Oakland. It's a balmy 65. The sun is shining. We just got out of some rain the other day, which is unusual for the Bay Area, so I'm enjoying it. Matt, how's your side of the world?
My iPhone greeted me this morning with a good morning, it is 1 degree out. Fahrenheit. Just throwing that clarifier out there. Otherwise, just, normal January, February stuff for upstate New York, but what can you do?
What are your heating bills like?
Actually, not so bad. I'm in an apartment building with people above and below me, so whatever.
Play into your favor. Heat rises.
Mm-hmm. Yep, exactly. And in the summer, it's the opposite, right? So it's not so bad. But yeah. So what's new over on your side of the country?
Well, as I mentioned in our last episode, I've got school, so I've been really just kind of buried in focusing on my business, creativity, and innovation class, where I'm learning all about how to think creatively. Like, give me a word. Give me any word.
Balloon.
Hat. You see?
Elephant.
Nope.
Wait, I thought this was a therapy session.
That costs extra. But no,
Fair enough.
It's just floating along. It's taking it one day at a time. But as has been the trend throughout the last 9-10 months or so, some up, some down. This is an up week. I feel good. And part of that might just be that the sun is out, but I feel good. How are you feeling, Matt?
Good. Nice. I got a big SharePoint site rolled out at work as a nice central help site for everything related to all of our IT devices and O365 and other various tools and modern workplace stuff. And then outside of work, final review on a bunch of the chapters of the book. So that stuff is progressing, and I'd say pretty good as well. So no major
home stretch
there.
On the book. I am looking forward. I get a free copy as your co-host, right?
I'll give you a deal. How about that? Is that fair?
I love a deal.
Right. Yes. Exactly. All right. So with that, why don't we just kick it off straight into the news?
This is the news.
All right, we're starting off with a bang. Here's an interesting peek behind the curtain. Microsoft is purportedly working on a feature that will log the individual history of each cell in an Excel workbook. First reported by TechRadar, the item appeared briefly on the Microsoft 365 roadmap last week before, get this, being quietly removed. The item description read, quote, Excel can now show you the changes you made to the cells in your workbook, including the previous value of the cells. Interestingly, the entry reflected a project launch date of February 2021. However, given the unceremonious removal, it's possible and even likely that the feature is not ready for prime time. Hopefully, more to come. This should have been an email. We've all been in a meeting that didn't need to happen. But what about an email that should have been a Teams post? Soon, you'll be able to take matters into your own hands with Outlook's in development Send to Teams feature. Send a copy of email messages or conversations, including attachments, into Teams chats and channels, or start a Teams chat related to a specific email message. Estimated for release in March, Share to Teams will be available for Outlook on the web, Outlook for Windows, and the new Outlook for Mac preview. As you might be aware, Microsoft recently made public preview for Teams available, providing participants with early access to unreleased features. Notably, however, they made it possible for admins to allow staff to opt themselves into the program, something that users haven't historically been able to do for the core stable of Office productivity apps, at least not without editing the registry, which is always a good idea. Well, it appears that's about to change. Starting with the February 2021 update to the Office ADMX templates, these are the objects used to define group policy, There will be a new policy to make visible the Office Update channel experience. This feature will allow an admin to enable the user to self-select the Office channel they would like to be in, such as beta or preview. Now, hopefully, this is just the beginning, as I happen to know more than a few people that would much prefer this to be a toggle in the admin center. I think we're starting to see a trend here. The Outlook modules, Microsoft's fancy name for the navigational squares that let you bounce between mail, calendar, contacts, and so on, are being moved to what's being described as, quote, a new app bar. Now, if you're thinking that sounds familiar, that's because Microsoft announced something identical for SharePoint like 4 months ago and rolled out a similar change to the Office.com landing page just last year. Interestingly, details for the roadmap indicate that you can customize the app bar by pinning preferred Outlook and Microsoft 365 apps. I don't know about you, but I feel the winds of a global unified Microsoft 365 interface coming our way. Another page being taken out of the Google Docs playbook, dictation is getting a sizable upgrade for both Word and Outlook. Microsoft highlighted the change in a blog post earlier this month by James Patansky. In it, he notes that the dictation is powered by Azure Speech Services and touts privacy as a feature. Quote, "We don't want to store your speech data. Instead, your speech utterances are sent to Microsoft only to provide you with the service. For instance, when the transcription is done, your audio and transcription results are not stored," end quote. The entry arrived on the Microsoft 365 roadmap on Friday. That's a 2.5-week differential between blog post and hitting the roadmap. That's progress. We'll take it. Offering an additional handful of nuggets, including that dictation will include a new UI and settings to control profanity filter and automatic punctuation. Supposedly, the feature should also facilitate editing and formatting text as well. Enhanced dictation is expressly slated to arrive on the web, Windows, and Mac in March, with the exception of Outlook for Mac, which has an April launch date as of today. A simple feature, but a welcome one. Dark mode is en route for OneDrive's web interface later this month. Taken straight from the roadmap, quote, "Dark mode changes the default bright background color in OneDrive for web to a darker color, which is easier on the eyes in low light environments or if you prefer less bright interfaces," end quote. Microsoft Mobile and even desktop apps have adopted dark modes over the past few years, so it makes sense to see the web coming along for the ride. It will be interesting to see what service is up next for the dark mode treatment. Maybe SharePoint? Ignite is right around the corner. A welcome step towards the passwordless future that Microsoft envisions for us all, the company is preparing targeted release customers for the arrival of sign-in via QR code on select mobile apps. The way it works, according to the limited details we have available, users already signed in via a desktop web browser, specifically Outlook on the web to start, will be offered the option to skip signing into mobile apps by typing their username and password, and instead scan a QR code to authenticate. They appear to be moving slow on this given the security implications. For example, it will be interesting to see how that interacts with multi-factor authentication, or what protections there might be in the off chance a malicious actor tries to capture the QR code first. Worldwide rollout doesn't yet have a formal date, instead is listed as early 2021.
That was the news.
Whew. All right, thanks, Sean. What is the first item that kind of stuck in your mind after going through all that stuff?
Less any one item and more kind of the trend we're starting to see with respect to Microsoft cribbing features from Google Docs and kind of the Google universe, which, let me go ahead and preface with, good. Take all of them. There's a reason that they are as successful as they are. And I understand that there are some challenges, of course, with mimicking some of those functionalities in desktop applications. You know, you have to consider like offline implications and things to that effect. But Excel, the leak that Microsoft themselves gave away that they're working on cell history so that you can store the historical record of each individual cell in an Excel workbook. Finally. And then, of course, dictation, you know, not just in Word, which is, you know, a la Google Docs, but also in Outlook, which is something Gmail doesn't do. I'm really excited about Microsoft looking at kind of the Google universe and saying, what can we take from that to enhance our own offerings? How can we be competitive in that space more so? Because they already are in a million different areas, but this is just taking it one step further.
My only thought on that is, how dare you compare Sheets to Excel? I mean, really.
Nobody is comparing Sheets to Excel. Nobody is comparing Sheets to Excel. Even organizations that buy Google Workspace, still buy licenses of Excel because you can't hold a candle. But I will say that you're seeing a lot of different areas where Google has innovated. And I think that natural language queries were a really great example of that. That's something that Excel is still wrapping its head around. But I mean, the idea that you can take a set of data, wine sales or whatever, and say, what's the most popular kind of red? To be able to say that like that is an executive's wet dream.
I was just going to say that's going to put so many people out of work and put so many executives into work, and it's just anti-populism right there. It's just like...
Okay, Hugo.
Oh, good Lord. But,
What about you? What's anything that caught your attention?
So finally, geez, I mean, this has taken I don't know how long, but actually got a date now announced for the share an email from Outlook to Teams. We've always had the get an email address in a team or a channel for a team, but now finally the share directly from Outlook. And I don't know, for people that don't know the difference between the get an email address and the actual share an email from Outlook, there are some subtle differences there. For example, sharing from Outlook, you can send in a private chat. You can't do that with the get an email address aspect. But if you do get the email address portion, you can change anything in the email itself. The subject line, you can choose which attachments you want to include. So a lot of people will say that, like, oh, this share from Outlook is a lot better than the email address one. And it's not necessarily the case, because for the share from, like, if you want to include attachments, it's all or none. So if somebody sends you, like, I don't know, let's say you're doing some design work and, like, they send you 20 proposed designs. Like, you can't just pick your 2 favorite ones and send the 2 of them. You have to send all 20 of them or none of them, right? Like, that's kind of how that works. And when they get sent, whether you can edit them or not, the actual email content, which is sort of an ethical question, but, like, if you're trying to, like, cut down the length of the email, maybe that person was wordy or there's content in there that's not really necessary for the people in Teams to see later on. There's differences. So actually, I'm going to link up to a video I did on this way back when. Really cool feature. Finally, we get a date associated with this, because this is a very much anticipated thing to come from the Teams team. And hopefully people are going to like it. But they should definitely know the difference between this and the send an email to a channel feature that's been in Teams for ever at this point.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong. I don't know if you or I have tested this just yet, but I was also seeing that you can also just drag an email from Outlook into Teams. Is that true?
That's what I've heard. So I haven't been able to test it on a Windows device yet. I can confirm it does not work on a Macintosh.
We were talking about this before we started recording, but, of course, you and I have beat the drum of Macs get these features first, but there's a bit of a caveat there, and we generally don't see kind of those ecosystem enhancements, whether it's deep embedded integration with OneDrive or just the applications being able to talk to each other more intelligently. Yeah. We don't necessarily see that. So that's definitely interesting.
True. Yep. So yeah, I think that one's a cool one. It's nice to have a date on it, but what's another one on your list from this week?
So I guess that somebody at Microsoft must have heard us too well when we started going on and on about I know, always a mistake. Never listen to us.
Right.
Redmond, don't listen to us.
Right.
When we were talking about wanting to see the app bar make it to the roadmap, a simple request.
Yeah, we didn't clarify.
We didn't clarify because now we've got another item on here. They did add the app bar, of course, to the roadmap. We talked about that last week. But they went and took it a step further, and it looks like now they're working on an app bar for Outlook, which they didn't say it in the title of the roadmap item, but if you dig into the description, they call it out as such. It is an app bar for Outlook. They're going to take what they call the little modules, the mail, calendar, contacts, etc., and they're going to move all that over to the left. They're also going to be incorporating Microsoft 365 apps. So, having that kind of office.com experience on the left. and I alluded to it in the news, but I smell a global Microsoft 365 interface change coming. That's just going to be, we're going to be in this frame of, the header search suite bar and then that app rail, no matter where you are in the Office 365.
So like a universal taskbar / Windows start menu, essentially, no matter where I am.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think there's no coincidence that they're working on, the Windows 10X in tandem with that there's just going to be this containerized experience of Microsoft, no matter where you are in their ecosystem.
And to think that, Outlook has had the same design now for close to probably 25 years. And it's got to be a big deal.
Cheese.
Yeah, right. It's got to be a big deal to justify, okay, Teams has had this app bar thing for a while now, so we're going to put it into Office.com. And you know what? Outlook's been around for a while. We should definitely shake that shit up a bit,
It's going to be really interesting to see how opt-in friendly or opt-out friendly it's going to be, because there's a reason they haven't touched Outlook. You don't move somebody's email.
Oh yeah, well that and just everybody is just so addicted to it and have used it for so long that that's the one thing that they consider their blankie. I don't know. I am very much an OWA person. I know that's technically not even what we call it any longer, but just let me have that. And I hate opening up the desktop app at this point because it's just so like the Mac version is okay because of that recent redo they did, the redesign, because it matches more along with the browser version. But the browser version just gives me what I need. It's simple, it's big, it's definitely designed in the direction of like more of a touchscreen interface, bigger buttons, fewer buttons, and like just give me the essentials versus, I'll have these discussions at work with people, and I actually had one just last week where somebody asked me where I had said in a team that I mentioned how much I prefer the Outlook web app over desktop, and somebody pinged me directly and said, why do you like that so much? I'm legitimately curious. And I said, because all the text in Outlook on Windows is just so small. Everything is all so blocky, and like just they're trying to cram everything in there, and I don't need 9,000 buttons within one UI. I just need like 15. That's really all I need. And but those people that just love their Outlook desktop experience and like that window is always open for them. Hey guys, your inbox is going to push over just a little bit this way, and your message preview is going to be pushed a little bit this way too. Like you're going to lose a little bit of preview space and get ready for it, I guess. So I guess we'll see what happens.
I think that those people are going to end up coming up on top because those are the same people that have 1,000 folders. So now you've got just a little bit more space so you can see all those extra folders that you've got. We know you.
Yeah, that's exactly right. You're totally right. And flags and folders, those are the two big things on and calendars, all the calendar sharing and people doing in Outlook.
As long as they don't take that away.
Yeah, exactly. Heaven forbid.
So I wanted to apologize to you formally because there's some Teams updates that I didn't include in the news. And I'm going to pretend it's because I wanted to give you the platform to talk about these changes.
Yeah. So I checked this morning before we were filming, and I wanted to bring up a couple here because these are sort of big ones that are both good news and bad news. So first is the good news, we'll say. The large gallery experience in Microsoft Teams meetings and Together mode, which I always thought was a marketing gimmick, which actually turns out makes me feel very comfortable, much more comfortable than the boxy Brady Bunch setup, is coming to the browser. So with Chrome and Edge coming soon, you'll have that ability to actually take part in sort of the modern experience. It won't be in a pop-out window, and the toolbar or the window or the meeting toolbar is going to be still that hover over near the bottom. But that being said, this is a pretty big advancement. But on the opposite side of that coin, that new calling experience that they've been talking about so much since I think that was announced at Ignite, the last Ignite, not the one coming in a couple weeks, has been delayed. So I believe that's not going to be here until, I want to say February or March. I forget. I don't have the date in front of me. But that's kind of a big deal because that was such a big UI change if you look at it. So just be on the lookout for that. And those were two of the big ones that I thought kind of, stood out for me. So All right. So I think that brings us, after your verbal slapping, Sean, for just being just so actually really good at producing all the content that you do. I have to give you a lot of credit for all the stuff that you do when we do this. So
And I accept all of it.
I'll let that one slide. Whether the audience does is a different story. We'll find out. But
They're on my side. Team Sean, get the shirts.
no, teams. See, you forgot the teams. That's the problem. Teams, Sean. Anyway. That brings us on to the community content for the week. First up, I wanted to talk about the upcoming events. We have a new event that was, I think, sort of like surprise announced. Sean, I don't know if did you see this online being announced by the Microsoft 365 account?
I feel like I had 7 days worth of notice on this.
Yeah, and I just saw it yesterday. So Microsoft's reimagined the digital experience event. So this is going to take place on February 4th at 9 a.m. Eastern time, which means that it's definitely pre-recorded because ain't nobody waking up at 6 a.m. for a Redmond, live broadcast in Pacific time. But they said, see new ways to bring together communications, knowledge, learning, resources, and insights with everyday work. Visit Microsoft 365 Twitter on Thursday, February 4th at 9 a.m. Eastern for a link to the digital event. There is a link in our events listing. It's just a reminder. It basically is just a download for a calendar event to go to Twitter to watch the video. But it's supposed to be something covered by Satya and a couple other folks at Microsoft. But that's this week. So take a look. And then let's see, no major changes otherwise. So February 13th, SPS Cairo, February 27th, the Scottish Summit, March 2nd, Microsoft Ignite. We will definitely be covering Microsoft Ignite special for a recap as to what gets announced during that. And that brings us to the community member of the week. And Sean, I'm going to kick this one off to you.
Yeah, and so obviously, Matt, you've always done such a great job with collating the events and picking a community content member of the week. And I wanted to take a stab at this because I, of course, interact with, my own swath of the Microsoft 365 community. And one person that I wanted to highlight that I believe you've met as well is Hugo Bernier. He's a member of the PNP, the Patterns and Practices team. He has his blog, the Tahoe Ninja, so he's been around in the space for those people that don't know.
I like that name. That's cool.
Isn't it? It's kind of an inside, like if you know, you know.
Yeah.
And so we're going to let all of our audience
I was going to say, so you're clearly not going to tell anybody what it means if they don't know.
Well, we'll let our audience in. It's just us.
Figure it out. Google.
SharePoint, when it was under development, it was under the code name Project Tahoe. And so it eventually ended up picking up, of course, its formal name of SharePoint. But for those people that were paying attention early on, like Hugo, it's been kind of this little badge of I've been around in the best way possible, of course. But what I love about Hugo, I know you're watching because you're such an arrogant narcissist.
It's like the direct opposite.
What I love about Hugo is that he's such a great storyteller with such a driven personality. Like he talks about, SharePoint and SPFX. The very first session that I saw him do was on accessibility psychology when it comes to building SPFX web parts, which was amazing. It was such an incredible experience because he went into the detail of what is it that people think when they see certain elements, text size, how do you make sure that you are approaching design in a way that is approachable for everybody? And it was such an incredible experience. And it really does speak to how thoughtful and kind and brilliant Hugo is. And he does a ton of other stuff in the community. We're going to list some of this in the show notes here, but I really I want all of you to stop what you're doing, go to Twitter and follow Hugo because it's just, Matt, you've met Hugo, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Nicest guy in the world.
And it's no coincidence, of course, that he's Canadian, which he'll be the first one to tell you.
Birthright.
Brag. But yeah, so I'll leave that there. But Hugo, big fan.
All right. Sounds good. Well, I think that wraps us up for this week. It wasn't actually a huge week of big announcements. I feel like it's going to get smaller and smaller the next few weeks before Ignite. I know there are things that they're holding off on to announce just because Ignite's coming up. Insider tip. So I guess we'll have to keep our ear to the ground on that one. But I don't know. Anything else you want to chat about quick before we wrap up, Sean?
Predictions. Do you have any predictions for this Reimagine the Digital Experience event?
Oh, I guess I would predict there's probably going to be another one of those Microsoft research reports about working from home and the impact on that to justify further purchases of Microsoft Teams licenses and why you should get E5 and things like that, probably.
I think
is that bad?
If I had to guess, I would bet that we're going to hear about the commute future again. I bet you it's going to be a lot of like quality of life conversations, like the headspace integration that we haven't heard much about since they talked about it.
They spent a lot of time on that, and like, don't get me wrong, I don't diminish the importance of that, absolutely not. But I also don't expect my modern workplace app to like teach me how to, I don't know,
meditate,
do yoga and meditate. Like I don't know. I don't.
It's an incredible differentiator, because Slack is like get to work. All of Slack is doing is though.
Right. Right.
Yeah, I think we're going to see more of that quality of life conversation stuff. So the commute future, the headspace integration. I don't have any insider information, so if I get this right, I'm a genius.
I don't either, actually.
The Starbucks integration, I'm willing to bet we're going to see a lot of that stuff.
I hate that stuff. Oh, the last thing I need is another way to give somebody a coffee. Like, come on. All right. With that, thank you so much for watching the MS Refresh Show this week. A like and subscribe is always much appreciated. And once again, comment. Let us know what you think. Do you agree, disagree, anything that we're missing? Actually, that is a really good question. Like, are we missing things in this? Is this the kind of thing that like you leave every week and go, oh, I wish they talked about blah, because we only know so much and we only cover certain things that we generally know. So feel free to leave that comment. And Sean, great chatting with you as always. Look forward to chat with you again next week and getting prepped a little bit more for Ignite and to like spill out whatever happens this week with that surprise event that Microsoft's rolling out. And with that, we'll see everybody next week. Have a great week, and looking forward to seeing you next Monday.
Thanks. See you.
And I do like whimsy, I swear. I like whimsy, I like, experience, I like all that kind of stuff. But like, I also like the features that we were promised 6 months ago to be here on time and not late. And not then re-announced at a later conference as if like they're a new product that they're announcing for the first time. Right? Like, this double dipping thing is getting old.
I agree. That we can agree on.
Yeah.
Microsoft, get it together and stop re-announcing things.
Yeah. This is just like the episode of Seinfeld. Double dipping, not cool. Not cool. George learned it back in the 90s. It's time that we do too.
I hope our audience gets that reference.
I mean, I'll take a look at the metrics, but I'm pretty sure a good portion of them will. I'm not too concerned.